All right, today a little bit different. I'm going over how you can get inside of our rentals as an applicant, kind of how we pick, tenants on all our applications. We are not running a zoo or a charity, so let's dive into it. Welcome to the inside information of how we pick tenants in our rental property. I'm at one right now that I've already rented. They haven't moved in, obviously. I don't think so. So we're going to dive in. All right, the first thing that I'm looking for is rental history. Where have you lived in the past? Is it positive history? Does your landlord say that you owed money? Did he put a 50B on you? Did he have you arrested? Is the house still standing? All of that stuff, yes, it's looked at. The second thing I'm looking for is job history. I count 3 points per year. So if you've had the same job longer than your last relationship, you're going to have pretty good points there. If you've had the same job since flip phones were popular, then you probably have enough points to get any house that we've got. All right, what's the third thing that I look at? Unfortunately, it is credit, but let me explain. I know that's disappointing to all the people with bad credit, but we give about 10 to 30 points depending on how non-terrifying your credit is, okay? Let me explain. So if you've got like recent stuff, last 12 months, maybe even 24 months, you let a car go back, you had a bankruptcy, you let a house go back foreclosure, that's not gonna look good. We're gonna look at timing, we're gonna look at, what's currently on there. If your score though is under 500, that's not really gonna help us at all. It's not gonna help you. That's really not even a credit score. That's like a cry for help, okay? If your credit score is above 700, we need to switch you on over to purchase a house, okay? So that's kind of the range that we're going to be in. If you have a 600, 650, you got a couple bad things 3 or 4 years ago, you're perfectly fine. So after these 3 steps, what are we looking for? What are we, trying to figure out? Looking at your credit, looking at your job history, and looking at your rental history. We're looking for stability. What is stability to us as property managers? Looking over your application, we don't want to be ghosted like your ex did in 2012. We want to rent a property, communication, payment, that's kind of what we're looking for. So those 3 steps that we're looking for really is stability, the most stable person that we have to apply for property. But wait, there's more. What about the negative side? What about negative points? Okay. There's really nothing that makes me hit the next applicant button quicker. I mean, really quicker than you can say emotional support alligator. Okay. Than a bunch of negative points. First, we'll kind of look at no job history. Like if you have no job history to put down, if your profession is professional napper, probably negative 50 points. Okay, we got to have some kind of job. Remember, I'm trying to find the person that's probably going to pay me, as far as rent for several months, if not years. 2, no rental history. No rental history at all, probably negative about 15 points. If you're coming out of your mom's basement and this is like your first rental, that's going to be pretty tough. Your mom's going to be probably your reference. She's going to say, oh, he's so sweet, he just needs a chance. I'm probably going to run away from that literally as fast as I can. All right, what else is the biggest negative points? The biggest negative points, unfortunately, y'all are going to cringe at this, is pets. So let me explain pets for you. I usually do negative points per pound of animal. Yes, we've had all of it. We've had emotional support horses. We've had donkeys. We've had 150-pound dogs that I thought was a horse or a donkey, but they informed me, no, that's my pet dog. That is negative points big time. So it's not to say that I don't have tenants with pets. It's just depending on what other applicants that applies for that property, if they had pets or not. So in other words, if you are competing for a property and you put down that you've got a Doberman Pinscher that's 60 pounds or a Rottweiler that's 80 pounds or a Pit Bull that's 90 pounds, and then I have another applicant that doesn't have that pet, they don't have the negative points. So I want to explain that, and I'm going to send this out to a lot of people, but it's like, just because somebody thinks, oh, I got an emotional support animal, they have to rent to me. No, I don't. It depends. I cannot not rent it to you because of that animal. So I want you to understand why sometimes, oh, I've got this dog and this dog. I've had people with 7 or 8 emotional support animals. It just depends on what other applicants I have. Of course, I can pick somebody without a pet. Okay, that's, it should be obvious. But if you didn't get a property through Help Realty and you put down 3 pets, my number 1 rule is I go straight to the pets. And I should put that on number 1 because that's what I do, but really it's kind of the 3rd thing on my list for points. So I go straight down to pets. If that applicant has more pets than they have family members, probably not going to get the house. I want to put that out there. So just keep that awareness, like if If you've got a pet, definitely put it down. Am I going to, negatize your points if you've got a goldfish? Maybe, because you got to think fish tank, weight, how many gallons of water is going to be sitting in the house, so that kind of thing. So, if it's a fish bowl with one fish, probably not. Okay. But if you put it down or we catch it, now we can charge for that as well. We can charge, up to $200 and $250 for a pet that we discover. If it wasn't on the application, we can also void the lease and say, it was breach of contract if you have a pet that you didn't pay for. So keep that in mind when you're applying for HIPAA Realty property. Have a good day.